How y'all doing? Oh, it worked.
Mike,
yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Yes. Hello. You hear me? Yes, sir. Yep. How's everyone? Great. My name is Jamal Joseph. I'm a professor of film at Columbia University, and it's my pleasure to serve as moderator for this amazing and distinguished panel. Sonja Sohn played Detective Kima Greggs on The Wire, and Detective Samantha Baker on the ABC series Body of Proof. She is also known for having starred in the independent film Slam, which she co-wrote. The Wire led to her current work as the leader of the Baltimore community initiative called Rewired for Change, an outreach program intended to communicate with and ultimately rehabilitate at-risk youth involved in criminal activity. The program is run out of the University of Maryland School of Social Work and uses episodes of The Wire as a teaching tool, encouraging participants to examine and query their lives and past actions. Other actors and writers involved in The Wire served as board members. Please welcome Sonja Sohn. Wendell Pierce played Detective Bunk Moreland in The Wire. Also plays trombonist Antoine Batiste in Treme. Currently stars as Justice Clarence Thomas in the HBO movie Confirmation, alongside Kerry Washington as Anita Hill. In 2009, Pierce became the host of the nationally syndicated Peabody Award-winning radio program Jazz at Lincoln Center, which featured live recordings from the Jazz at Lincoln Center House of Swing. Born in New Orleans, one of three sons of a teacher and a decorated World War II veteran who worked as a maintenance engineer, his childhood neighborhood of Pontchartrain Park was wiped out during Hurricane Katrina, flooded under 14 feet of water. Pierce started the nonprofit Pontchartrain Park Community Development Corps to build new affordable solar and geothermal homes in the area for families displaced by Hurricane Katrina. Inspired in part by Michelle Obama's initiative to bring more supermarkets to food deserts, where residents lack easy access to fresh produce, Pierce, along with two partners, Troy Henry and James Hatchett, started a chain of grocery stores, Sterling Farms, in the 9th Ward of New Orleans in 2012. Sterling Farms also has a convenience store division called Sterling Express. The stores are named after Sterling Henry, his business partner's father, who ran a pharmacy for about 40 years in the lower 9th Ward. Please welcome Wendell Pierce. All right. Felicia Pearson played Felicia Snoop Pearson on The Wire. Felicia wrote her memoir titled Grace After Midnight, detailing her troubled childhood and time spent in prison for second-degree murder. Born in Baltimore, the daughter of two incarcerated drug addicts, and raised in an East Baltimore foster home, she worked as a drug dealer. At age 14, she was convicted of second-degree murder after shooting a girl named Okia Toomer and was sentenced to 2 8-year terms to be served consecutively at the Maryland Correctional Institution for Women. She was released after 6.5 years. Pearson says her life turned around at age 18 when Anthony Lowley, a local drug dealer who looked out for her and sent her money in prison, was shot and killed. He was the one that gave her the nickname Snoop, because she reminded him of Snoopy. While in prison, she earned her GED. Felicia has volunteered as a prison visitor and has worked in anti-violence and literacy campaigns for youth and supported the Stay Strong Foundation. He's working Felicia Pearson. Jamie Hector. Jamie played Marlo Stanfield in The Wire, also starred in Blackout with Melvin Van Peebles and Jeffrey Wright. was featured as a recurring villain Benjamin Knox Washington in the 3rd season of Heroes. He also appeared in the film Max Payne, playing Lincoln Deneuf, a Haitian crime boss. Jamie currently co-stars in Bosch as Jerry Edgar, a detective and partner to Harry Bosch, played by Titus how do you say his name?
Welliver. Yes.
Welliver. Hector is the founder of Moving Mountains, a nonprofit theater-based organization that provides year-round classes in drama, dance, vocal, and film. He's also helped raise money for the survivors of the 2010 Haiti earthquake. Please welcome Jamie Hector. I'd like to start with a quote. I'm offering this quote in the form of a question, but it's a quote from the great Harry Belafonte, my mentor. And he was at an event one time, and it was a youth theater event. Jamie, it's my program Impact that does similar work. Oh. And he said to the people assembled, a lot of people thought that or think that I'm an artist who became an activist. But the truth is, I'm an activist who became an artist. So I posed Mr. Belafonte's quote as a question, which for in your lives came first. Were you an actor, then activist, or an activist, then an artist, and how did the two inform each other in your life and influence your life?
I was an activist first before I became an actress. You know, I was in the neighborhoods, the urban communities. You know, yes, I was selling drugs, but at the time I was selling drugs, I still was giving back. So I giving back to the people that was less fortunate than me, you know, because I had it, you know, and what? Oh, yeah. I was listening because you know, I get nervous.
No, I got you. That's why we stop.
That's what happens when it's first
up
and
back. Have some fun, loosen up there.
Well, you know what? For me, acting was a calling in its own way, right? So I would consider myself an actor before I was an activist, but in the process, I also realized the needs that were required in the neighborhood. So I was a mentor or tutor, right, at a Jackie Robinson Center for Physical Culture before I started working on The Wire, and then started reading a book called The Way They Learn and understanding this prison to pipeline, this school to prison pipeline situation that's going on. I learned that out early on in regards from the 3rd grade. So that pushed me into this area of becoming an activist, just not wanting to be slighted. And then I had a guy, he was like my mentor also, his name was Sonny Carson. So Sonny Carson, which was just constantly pushing me and telling me, listen, you got the potential to lead in the neighborhood, and you got a lot of dudes, you know, a lot of dudes, a lot of brothers out here, and you could, you know, navigate them in the right direction. So with that, I started trying to, not even trying, but doing it, like changing the lives of youth in the community through mentorship, through programs like working in martial arts and drama, but they were always free programs that I didn't charge for. So for me, it was just taking action right there and then, and shifting lives. And I was always constantly implementing, you know, this going to college process, but just making sure that you don't do that and fall into debt while doing it. You know, so it's necessary that you get the education because it's a silver bullet, but you always want to make sure that when you get out, you can actually get a job and take care of the debt and not be stuck under the umbrella of the debt. So to answer your question, I would consider myself an actor first because it was a calling in my life through dance and instrument and acting, and then by force of nature, an activist.
Sonny Carson, by the way, was, for those that don't know, was a great New York activist, but Brooklyn-based. Wrote a great book called The Education of Sonny Carson.
Absolutely.
There's a great film called The Education of Sonny Carson. My wife played Virginia, his girlfriend. One of the true giants. You considered Sonny a dear friend.
Yeah.
And see me, like now that, you know, like I'm traveling the world, that I am an actress, like I want to be more involved in my community because I see a lot of things that I could have done, you know, now I can do it because I have, you know, like Jamie said, like a lot of dudes, like just the neighborhood behind you. It starts with you, the resources. It starts with you, but you gotta go to the person in the neighborhood that call all the shots you wanna see. You know, go to him and be like, I'm trying to give out, you know, school supplies, keep the kids off of the street, because in Baltimore, they turn down our rec centers. So therefore, they turn down the rec centers where the kids want to go, back on the corners. We only have 4 corners, you know, and they want to be right there. So when the police come through, you ain't got to be selling drugs or nothing. You could just be standing there and they could say, you know, you ain't supposed to be right here, you littering. So they lock you up. What can you do? And that's right there, start your record. So, you know, I just try to go back to my community, my city, and just like right now we putting together right now a back to school cookout. It's a block party. We give it every year, but this time I think this one going to be special because I have more funds that's coming in that I could give out. Like Jamie said, I ain't trying to go broke trying to take care of everybody, but you know I'm gonna give what I can and I'm gonna make everything right.
And thank you, Mr. Buddy, who almost went broke, right?
Right. For me, I grew up in New Orleans, and the two are synonymous for me. Art was always activism in New Orleans. You see a second line that started by social aid and pleasure clubs. We understand the pleasure part, but the social aid part was, you know, during segregation and Jim Crow laws, when neighborhoods were redlined and you didn't have access to health care, you couldn't go to hospitals, you couldn't get insurance, you couldn't even get burial plots. We pooled our monies in social aid and pleasure clubs. And the social aid part was, if your mama takes sick, we'll take care of you. If your daddy dies, we're gonna send him off nice. And what the world knows as a jazz funeral was actually a social act of insurance, really, where the neighborhood takes care of each other. So these cultural events were always that of activism, especially in times when poor and African-American communities that were ostracized and in the middle of segregation didn't have anything. For me as an actor, I started and was inspired by the Free Southern Theater, which was a theater company that started in New Orleans during the civil rights movement, and they would go to marches and perform plays and throughout the South under the threat of violence from the Klan. They were known for actually not coming out for the curtain call because that's when they expected all the violence to go down. They would kind of do the play and get in the cars and jump back to New Orleans. So for me, the two are synonymous, and you have the legacy of men like Harry Belafonte and women like Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis and all those people that kind of passed on the baton of responsibility and legacy that you, as an actor, should be an activist.
All great answers. There's 4 different answers. You know, I would say, yeah, you know, I've got so many titles. I feel like I fall under many umbrellas, and I did not sort of go towards activism or actor with any sort of target or bullseye out there, and so I can't put one before the other. I was a reluctant actress for most of the time I've been acting, and because I started out writing, and I'd always believed that my life was supposed to mean something and have some sense of a distinct purpose, and I was here to accomplish something, and I could never, for the life of me, marry acting to that. I wondered, you know, where that was really, how was that going to change the world, or allow me to impact the world through a sense of purpose. And it was something I followed as it followed me through my spoken word career. And I grew up in a home where my father, in a home in which my father was the local, he's that community member from the hood that shows up at a city council meeting, and he starts speaking. He's very articulate, and you go, who is that? Like, you know, because in those arenas, I've been to these types of meetings, and they don't expect. There's a lot of times there's not an expectation that a man of my father's stature would be able to speak eloquently about and in detail about the issues that were affecting my community. So at any rate, I was raised by a man like that, and I think because I always had that sort of seed planted in me from early on, that I was here to do some type of good. When I discovered that acting, or my ability to have a platform through acting, could be utilized for the greater good, that's when it all came together for me. And I thought, oh, wow, so this is how I can do this. And we were together when I had that epiphany. Obama was, and I'm going to just tell the story. That was a long-winded way of saying something very simple, but this story is important. In 2008, Wirecast were invited to do some voter empowerment work by Bunk Moreland and the National Urban League. They were traveling through the state of Virginia and asking us to join them. After that, we were invited to go to Carolina and campaign on behalf of Obama. And it was my experiences there when I saw that people, like, you know, hundreds, these college campuses, could be thousands, right?
Thousands.
Of people were coming to hear what we had to say and get encouraged, and inspired by what we had to say. That was just a major moment. It's like, wow, we can get folks out like that. What we are saying has to be important. And then we went to Carolina, and we all had different experiences. You were in Carolina, right, Jamie?
I was there.
Jamie was there.
And
I had to leave.
You were in Virginia.
Right.
But Mark Morial was talking to us about Harold Belafonte. Now, you knew all this because you had this in your background, and you were part of this conversation, too. But we were on this long bus ride, and they were just talking to us about how, back in the 60s, artists and actors, were a part of the civil rights movement, and there's a gap there, and it's one that I clearly saw. And you saw the light bulb go off in my head, and I started having these side conversations with them about what are we going to do? What are we going to do after this? We've got to do something with this. And then
the other part was, Sonja said, after this election, it's not the end, it's just the beginning.
Sure did.
And I realized that we're going to have to be a lot more involved after this. And that was literally the birth of Rewire for Change, her organization. She said, all right, I see that we're having an impact on getting people out to vote, but now we're going to have to really commit to being there for the long term. And she literally, on that bus trip when we were riding around getting out the vote, she put together the organization.
Yes. The experience of being on the wire in terms of people inviting you to do things, but the issues that the show took on and that you took on as actors were burning issues of the day. They still are.
Mm-hmm.
We wish we could say, several years after, the show went off that anything's resolved. We wish to say, 50 years after the March on Washington or 50 years after the founding of the Black Panther Party that things have changed, but they haven't. In some ways, maybe worse. But how was it being in that time period, knowing that you as an actor in your show had its finger on the pulse of police brutality and mass incarceration and surveillance and all the stuff that was happening in the Baltimore community, which is really, a prison for what was happening in Black America?
Well, at first we thought it was a silo because people weren't watching the show when it was on. And so we thought we were doing a good show. I think we could all say that. But it was really in a silo. And it wasn't until like maybe the third year we were coming back like, hey man, people are starting to check out the show. And it has a life since it's gone off the air.
It's because me and Jamie came. So that's just
Yeah, then they came and saved the day, you know, and the rest is history. But it was one of those things that, you know, even during the course of the 5 seasons that we did, we went through a roller coaster ride personally. I remember the first year, Sonja and David knocked heads. I mean, Sonja was just like, because David said there's no hope. Yeah, David Simon said, you know, there's a show, there's no hope. And Sonja said, what? Oh, she went off. She said, you wouldn't have a show if in our neighborhoods there was no hope, because the evidence of the hope is in the cast that you have here doing your show. And I was like, yeah, you're right. There was a time that I thought about leaving the show.
Oh, I have to say, David was my boss at the time, and I didn't say it quite like that. I think I went into that. I think it was like talking behind the teacher's back a little bit.
No, you sat there, you told him.
I did say that in his office, though, didn't I? But it wasn't quite like that, though.
That's how I came off.
That's how I retold the story.
You made it through the show, sister. But you know, now we see the ramifications of doing great art. You see what thoughts are to the individual, where you reflect on who you are and who you hope to be. When you lie awake at night with sort of man or woman you want to be, your failures, your triumphs. What those thoughts are to you, art is the forum where we collectively decide who we are, what our failures are, what our values are, and then act on them. That's the whole reason we do art. Entertainment is just a residual of that. But it's the public discourse that you engender and you decide on who you are. That's why when the uprising happened in Baltimore last year, the media reached out to us, which was an amazing thing, because they knew we had started this public discourse going all the way back to 2000, and they were seeing the ramifications of it. I actually was about to leave The Wire one season after the school year, which was a great season. And I met one of the actors, and she came up to me and said, oh, Mr. Pierce, we didn't have anything to do. I was on the show this year. I said, who did you play? She said, oh, you know, I was in the, I'm a lot older than I am. I look like I'm in middle school, but I'm graduating high school, and I'm going to Brown University next year on scholarship. And I'm like, so who did you play? She said, I forget the character's name, the girl who slices the other girl's face. Oh, yeah. I was like, you played her, and you're going to Brown? I said, why aren't we telling your story? And then I said, and I went home after we finished it, and I said, I think I'm going to leave the show. And then I saw the season, and I thought it was, for the first time, it was a real examination of where we lose our kids. Of where, you know, when we see Dookie and Mike and all of them, just the intersection of how we lose our kids. And then I said, okay, our violence and this dysfunction is not arbitrary. We're saying something. So that allowed me to come back and finish the show. So that's the role of what I think The Wire played from beginning to end.
You know, I had a similar, well, for me, I wasn't never thinking about leaving the show, even though it affected me. I was like, I got a show, pause, I'm staying. But with what happened to Wendell, it was, I had a similar circumstance happen to me twice, right? So I'm walking outside the house in Baltimore, and there was a Jeep that drove by, and dude looked out the window and said, Marlo, a couple of guys in the Jeep, and they said, I'm trying to be like you, I'm moving a couple of keys. Right there, just clicked. And I was like, what am I doing, right? So then, fast forward, I'm in a club in D.C., and a guy comes up to me and he says, look, I do this for real, so if, you know, anybody want to lay down wherever you're from, you know, I was like, my man, it's a TV show. But with that, I said, what am I doing? So I sat down with a friend of mine, and, you know, he's a director, and we were just talking about it, and I was just talking about the things that I do in the community and how I'm really about changing lives. And I said, am I taking a backward step playing the character that will also shape the lives of young folks coming up all around the world? And then I saw the entire season. And then I realized, damn, Jamie, you're kind of selfish. It's not about you. Marlo's just a small part in a bigger picture. of a story that needs to be told. So being in that piece right there and seeing it from that scope and seeing how we truly affected lives from New York to LA in urban communities, and anybody can open that or pop that series in, and so many other outlets that were formed outside of this. You know, I met so many people along the way that said, you know, I was an attorney, but I changed my life to becoming a professor or becoming an activist in some way because your story changed my life, because I felt for Dookie, because I felt for this character, because I felt for that character. We were in Martha's Vineyard raising money for President Obama, and the amount of people that approached us based on that story. You know, you had cats coming to us from the street perspective, you had those coming from law enforcement, those coming from the political perspective, and everybody just affected them in a different way, but overall they read the story or saw the story and read it like a book. And so that you know, in seeing that, I realized how I played a part in that, and how we all played a part in something great.
And see me, you feel me?
Yeah, absolutely.
And see me, I was less fortunate because these guys, I take my hat off to y'all. I learned a lot on the show. You know, I was a part of the problem. I was part of the problem. Now I'm trying to solve it. You know what I mean? Thank you. You know, I'm part of the solution because I know from just being in the streets what it takes man, it's just crazy out there. Then I've been on a show, and Ed Burns and David Simon, I never forget this. They was like, and this was season 3, and I was the scene that we was in the pigeon coop. Yeah. And you was like, it's your turn now, girl. And I was like, huh? I ain't even understand what was going on. But you know, David Simon and Ed Burns and Nina, they came to me. Listen, they was already on season 4. Season 4. We're gonna make you a star. You gotta finish doing what you're doing in the streets. Please, just let everything go. And I did that. Season 3. I kept my little bit of money that I had from off the streets and gave everything else away. Because I seen and I believed in Ed Burns and David Simon and Nina that they was gonna not even make me a star, just, you know, just make me a better person within me. Because I've been through so many trials and tribulations in my life that nobody else have knew on the show, and unless I probably sit there and have a conversation with y'all. And then that's right, I had to go ahead and write a book so people could understand me, where I come from, the neighborhood I come from, the trials and tribulations that I came from. And the show, it helped me get out the streets, you know? And when people used to come up to me, oh man, you ain't acting. Yes, I am, because I can't keep looking at no camera. They gotta tell me, turn my head. I'm acting, you know what I mean? It's my first time, you know what I'm saying? I gotta remember lines, you know? They say my aim too accurate. I gotta cheat it this way. I'm acting, you know. And you know, like it just, you know, The Wire, and I thank Ed Burns, Nina, David Simon, whoever else, if I'm even forgetting their name, I thank you all, because The Wire saved me and saved a few people that I tried to save from my neighborhood. You know, I couldn't bring everybody, but you know, I just, it saved me, man.
Word. Absolutely.
I love y'all. I break it up. I am just so moved. I'm like teary. I love these people. This is my family.
Y'all my family.
You want to know why The Wire is so special?
Because we was family.
It's because of every single one of these stories. We all brought something very different. Our whole histories. I remember it was around maybe the end of the first season or somewhere around there, somewhere maybe even the second season. But we all started to realize that, because a lot of us, this was our first really big gig, you know. And And we were just caught up in just like, you got a new job and you on TV and there's all kinds of shit you got to work out. And you having these, private conversations about yourself. The first season I had the same thing. It was like, I can't do this. I'm playing a cop. I was in a problem playing a cop because where I come from, I had bad memories of the cops. I had a resentment from a cop in my home at 8 years old, still on my back. I didn't even know it until I had to play a cop. Wow. And I went through a lot of personal shit to just be here. And I prayed and cried. I was like, why are you making me doing this? God, I'm just here because I know you got something for me. Because I've been doing this with you for a while, going, diving off of cliffs, and we've been coming up. But this shit right here, it's too much. It's too much pressure. I don't care about the money. I just need to do something important in the world. But I just felt like there was something else going on. And after about a year of that, that was my version. We all had different versions of it, those conversations. Because you told me that those stories. And we were all helping each other work it out like family do. Okay? A lot of us had come to the town. So whenever an actor would come to town, we would immediately surround them. It was just us hanging out with each other. But it was like we were living this kind of parallel universe of The Wire in our own, on the side, okay? So all of these issues that were happening, when the bell, and you were one of the first people to get it though, I'm gonna say that. But when the sort of bells started to go off around the cast, that this show was much more important than we were. The investment, I think, was even deeper. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. So I think that's why people really enamored themselves to the characters and the story as well. And David, Simon, Ed, Nina, I mean, these are some amazing people because the way that they ran our show, we've been on a bunch of shows now, right? Mm-hmm. We still haven't been on a show that was run the way our show was. Because we were off like in Baltimore, away from everything, but we cared. And we put a lot into these issues, and I think to go out into the world and represent, because we were basically, I remember when Snoop came onto the show, and you and Michael were closest to Snoop, so we would get to report Snoop, you know what I mean? People like, you gotta watch out for her when she's around, So we were all like, it's like a extended family. He was the cousins, they was the brothers, you know what I mean?
First of all, and me, I'm on the cop side. I didn't see. I would have to hang out with them.
They was the real police.
The first night Snoop came to the set. I remember when Perry brought it to the set, right? And they gave Snoop sat in the director's chair with David on one side and Ed on the other. And and she's trying to be cool, I'm always on Hollywood sets. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so what's happening next? Why everybody looking at that little TV? Everything is over there. Oh, that's what they're looking at, okay. She's trying to be cool, I see it. And I'll never forget, it was a shootout scene. And she said, motherfuckers don't shoot like that. You remember that? See, that motherfucker stand up, shoot. Motherfuckers gonna be like, whoa. But what was great, and it shows you how you take your personal experience and bring to the show. I mean, that's a funny thing, but I mean, if you're gonna be authentic, you gotta be authentic. Yeah. Motherfuckers change their shop. They started shit like that. But I just want to say briefly that Snoop is an amazing woman. An amazing woman. You hear that profile, and then you engage with this charming, talented, intelligent person, and it's this cautionary tale that she's allowed herself to be on stage and say, examine the humanity that you have before you, and understand that you never look at any kid who may be going down that wrong path as anything other than this full, loving human being. And if you want to change that course, embrace that. Embrace that before you embrace any idea of ignorance or negativity. Understand that there's that humanity there. And she was a living example of why the show tapped into people's psyche and why the show has created just what this conference is. Examination of policy. examination of the influence of art changing people's lives in a practical way at universities across this nation. You don't see no damn shows about Gilligan. You know what I'm saying? These are people's lives, and the examination of the dysfunction in our American culture that was on display in The Wire has changed people's lives. With what you guys are doing, an examination of it in all of the schools that you are teaching, and we appreciate that. And then what the result of it is someone like Jamie Hector, who has a relationship with Charles Ogletree at Harvard. A personal relationship. They go fishing, actually. Charles Ogletree took him fishing. The fact that she goes back to her community and changes people's lives, giving them practical life's solutions, not just playing the TV star. And what she has done as putting her life on display as a cautionary tale to give you the guideposts and the milestones and the ways of dealing with people that you'll never pass a corner kid again and just assume, oh, those motherfuckers. Because you always go, wait, that's Snoop, and that's Dookie, and that's Michael, you know, and Randy. Those are our kids. And then we put it into policy. We're making demands on our political structure, on our cultural structure, on our academic structure, so we change people's lives. So I'm proud of what we did.
Thank you. I like the words. I like the words.
With that, I'd like to open it up for the audience. How much time do we have left?
About 20 minutes.
Great. Yeah, I think, well, I'll ask one more question and then open it up to the audience, okay? I want to talk about zip codes just for a second. And this thing that you mentioned when we talked about parallel universes. Everyone up here comes from one of those zip codes that is in peril. So we're talking about Brooklyn, which is one of 5 zip codes in New York, where 60% of the prisoners come from. You know, I live in Harlem. That's another zip code. Baltimore, New Orleans, Baltimore. When you see what's happening in those zip codes, in your communities, things that you had a chance to deal with and in some ways leave and go and fight on the front lines, albeit creatively, albeit in the show, albeit in the silo that you talked about, but you're back living and working there. What does this bring up for you as you reflect on Wyatt and as you reflect on what's happening in your communities today?
Me, I go back home just like last year. Y'all remember Freddie Gray? I was in Atlanta doing a little short film for Tyler Perry, and everything was going on. So I didn't have no permission for the Believe stage. You know, Baltimore, we say Believe. I didn't have no permission for the Believe stage or nothing. I took everything in my pocket to give to my community. You know why? Because the mayor called out youth thugs. You don't embed that in their head. If you do that and they embed that in their head, they're going to go out and act on it. You know, and The Wire gave me this platform. I'm not in the streets no more, but I can relate. Everybody in here can relate. You ain't gotta be on somebody's corner or anything. You could just go outside right now and just relate to society. That's what's going on right now. It's raining. Everybody can relate to it's raining. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I did that for the kids. No grown folks, no grown person ate at my block party and only had 32 hours to put it together. Nobody ate at my block party. I'm talking about the grown-ups. Or it was about the kids. And The Wire and my society, it just, we got, man, I don't know, man. It's Baltimore, I love my city, man. I love my city, and I'm gonna give back whatever I can, whatever I can. When you talk about zip codes, my zip code is 21213. That's East Baltimore, the heart of the city. Whatever you can't learn in the school, you're gonna learn on them corners. You know, and it's sad to say, but sometimes you do need street knowledge to just walk down the streets now, because somebody could be standing right here with a hood on, ready to rob you. If you had a little bit of street knowledge, I ain't saying go out there and sell drugs, but if you just know the knowledge of how the streets work, you'll just go ahead and cross the street because he don't look right at all. And I mean, I just want to give back. You know, I just want to give back to my zip code.
And I want to piggyback off of something I think I'm feeling from you, because you know I love you, and and so proud of you. We all are, you know. But I feel like I hear in your voice and in your spirit, it's like I'm doing my part, but it's serious out there.
Yes.
And and I've been having this lately too, because I've been in the streets hard for the last 6 months. It's like everybody ain't gonna make it,
Yeah.
and it's dire. And when
getting
you're
younger
in this
and younger.
work, you know, you have to create some sort of emotional distance from it. But there is this sort of heaviness that comes with it, and it is the reason why. Because I want to just bring that comment of David Simon's into I want to bring that context back here. So I came up to David Simon after I guess it was after the end of the first season, or it was I think it had been a couple of seasons, because I've been asked a lot of times, like, why does every season end on a hopeless note? And I was talking to David about it, and his response was there was no hope in the ghetto. And he basically, look around like this system. Now, see, I wasn't as versed in this information as David was when he said that. So I took it personally, which was because the flip side of it is also true.
Yeah.
What I said to him was true, because I took it as a personal attack. Somewhere in my mind, I was like, wait a second, because I dealt drugs, I sold my ass, I was out there on the streets, I did all kinds of shit, and I made it through my rough childhood, and I got here. And I know the stories of several other cast members, as well. And I know the story of this man's family, who didn't come from the same place where we came from, but he had generations of people who had come, so all of us were signs of that hope. So yes, that was true. But when you're out on these streets sometimes, and I'm talking about in the street, where people are really just living for tomorrow. They don't have no room to think about no policy.
Right.
They got no room to go out and protest nothing. They trying to get fed, okay? And they're not that they're not appreciative, but they're like, this, I got to take care of this right now.
Yeah.
And I so when you talk about these zip codes and you talk about what's going on in these in these areas right now, we are in we are in serious circumstances in our communities these days, because the system redlining, which you spoke about, this where black folks are right now is intentional. It's intentional. There's a blueprint and a design, and you can follow it through policies like redlining. And you see where we are. And yes, we all got to do our part, because I want to see miracles, coming, and hope, coming out of the ghetto, as much as anybody. And I just don't see any other way, because there's a part of me that feels like the system itself is just. It's like people in the hood feeling. Maybe it's some of my leftover multi-generational trauma talking. Mm-hmm. That there's a part of me that just feels like this shit is hopeless, because they got it rigged. Look at our voting system, the electoral college. Look at the nonsense that we are constantly.
The economic system.
The economic system.
They just got to put more money into the education systems.
No.
In the hood, because if you say it's hopeless, just because it's hopeless. And they sit here on them four corners that I was just talking about.
Right.
They don't have no recreation centers. We cannot get the next Michael Jordan.
We cannot get the next LeBron James, even Melo. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For real.
Yeah.
Hold on,
They
you're in
gotta
New York
give-
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know you
But
can't.
you know that's hometown.
That's your
Melo.
hometown, yeah.
No, I'm not
Melo,
saying
Baltimore, all the way.
Snoop, but I'm not saying
gotta
no.
get back to
I don't.
the
You know I don't rep hopelessness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just talking about the system itself, economic. The capitalist system. The capitalist system. But let's just say it. Okay. Listen, businessman. We have this. All I'm saying is, we don't have enough time for that conversation. Y'all are in school right now, so y'all go out and talk that talk, because that's y'all's lane. But you know what I'm talking about. There is just a blueprint that black folks have fallen under, and poor folks, yes. And we are just trying to help, support other people, making it, to the next place. Because you have to believe it's possible. See, I have to go to a spiritual place. Okay, because none of this shit makes sense to me. Okay, it doesn't make sense at all to me. Because what got me through my childhood, when I was selling Jet magazine door to door, that's how old my black ass is. Okay, and I saw Julian Bond looking fine in the Jet magazine, and I was like, oh yeah. And my daddy was talking that NAACP stuff at me. We had one black parent in our neighborhood. I grew up in Newport News, Virginia. Okay, all right, and I'm going like, yeah, I can feel the world, the tide shifting, but I couldn't see it in my life. And I got to the point where I grew up, I had abuse resentment against the black bourgeoisie, because I was like, Julian Bond is not stepping off the pages in Jet magazine and coming to change my life. I was waiting for them. They never came. The only thing I had, because I lived in a little crazy environment, the parents, the teachers, the only thing I had was going up in a rocket ship sliding board and praying to God and going like, okay, we got to work this out. And following some signs on how to get out of this, and then being able, but growing to that point, evolving to the point, by the grace of God, because I gotta just say, would you be here without the grace of God?
No.
Okay? Because you know what, there's some shit you was in that nothing could have gotten you out of system, MD, right, your mama. And honestly, I had to get, so all I'm saying is, the reason why I'm in these streets is because I believe that I can radiate that energy. The reason why it's important that we're on stages, that we're on that screen, and that we come to your neighborhood, because coming to your neighborhood is important, all right? Because you have to feel hope. You have to feel the light. You have to be the light. And your words and your actions have to match what you are so they can see it. Because if they can't see it and touch it and feel it, and it only exists on the screen or a stage like this, that's that juice in their tank. It's like having gas in your tank but having no damn oil. You know what I'm saying? It matters. And that he's on a 9-day press tour, ain't got no sleep. I'm jet lagged. All of us. This is what we got to do. And what we ask is that you do that. You do that too. Because I'm gonna say we put a lot of time into this shit. And honestly, work, family, on the streets, it's all in the pot.
I can tell you.
Okay, I'm done.
I can tell you, a part of that passion, because you won't even say it. She alluded to it a little earlier. Man, she put a lot of time and energy, but more importantly, she put her treasury into what she did.
Absolutely.
And she risked her entire treasury and lost a good portion of her treasury trying to change people's lives. As the capitalist of the group, I want you to know that people appreciate that. Now, I say I'm a capitalist because I want to change the misdirection or the miseducation of that word. See, capitalism, in its pure sense, is supposed to be about growth.
That's right.
More people, more opportunity, more education, more ideas, more competition, and then it actually is about growth. Capitalists today say there's a finite amount of wealth. They'll never admit to it, but there's a finite amount of wealth, finite amount of opportunity. Only my kids are going to go to school. Only my kids are going to have access to this resource. I am actually not even going to try to build anything. We're just going to trade money back and forth, right, with derivatives, right? And whoever's left holding the bag, Sonja, she's going to lose it. But we made money off of playing with money. so we don't create it. I believe in true capitalism where you create something. I want everyone to go to school.
Right.
Because everyone's going to get an opportunity, going to come up with better ideas and improve upon that. And then there's competition, healthy competition, and then there's growth. I say all of this to say, I believe the 21st century social justice movement is economic development. Right? It goes not against what the 20th century and 19th and all the centuries social justice movements of the equality and human rights, and the dignity of all people to live healthy and productive lives. But I'm the old man in the group, 20, 30 more, right? You get on that side, some of these little age people out here can tell you, be like, listen, man, I went to all those rallies when I was young, I marched, now I really want to leave and really make an impact right now. So something that has to go in tandem. I say that because I saw in New Orleans, and I told my community, I want y'all to be as impassioned and as angry, but I want you to put solutions on the table. The only way you can get up and speak is if you bring a solution to the table. So we organize ourselves. Don't listen to the chatter. I'm going to tell you you're a socialist or anything like that. We're going to get the property sold back to government. Everybody leaving town after Katrina, we're going to take those properties. We're going to build the homes. We're going to get people to come back, sell the homes, and we're going to build an economic engine for our community. Guess what? The people we're going to get, people who need business, they're going to build they're going to be the contractors in the home. So here you have a workforce that's going to benefit from building homes, that's going to bring people back to the neighborhood, that's actually going to put people on the tax rolls, that's going to bring our neighborhood back. And I saw it. It's not a new idea. See, because what happens is government will tell you one thing. Those violent revolutionaries, the Black Panthers, we need to do everything to stop them. And now here it is, we took all of their programs and actually rolled them out. Head Starts, breakfast program, economic development, right? The community development block grants. That's the Social Aid and Pleasure Club. That was the 10 points of the Black Panthers, right? We're going to demonize them and take all of their best ideas and roll it up in the government and say, right? So we know that there are those who don't have our best interests at heart. But my belief is economic development. I've gone on the corners in New Orleans and said, listen, how can I get you off this corner? You guys are basically just, you're an economist like I am. Snoop can tell you, she wasn't out there because she liked slinging. She wanted to make some money. I want to get out, get a job, right? I'll go to school. Somebody's going to teach me how to carry a gun, maybe how to cut it, maybe how to package it. Which corners are the best? That's economic development. That's Harvard Business School. This is how you develop your product. You're going to get this part of market share. Your margin has to be a little bit larger than that because the capital you have to outlay is the same thing as, yo, man, you got to cut that package up and put it on the east side and the west side. Then we'll be able to get out there. Now, we got to protect our intellectual property, so you need to carry that Glock. It's the same thing. If you don't have access to the regular economy, you will make access in the underground economy. So we're not going to demonize people because they're actually trying to get that access. So it's economic development in our communities. If we can look at Asia and India as developing and emerging markets, we can look at East Baltimore and the south side of Chicago and Harlem and Brooklyn as emerging markets, these underserved, and Ninth Ward as underserved communities. Because guess what? When you don't, the gentrifiers can find it, right? All of a sudden, they can turn it around, right? But why you can't turn it around? So you need the political track to make sure you have your back covered in policy, right? To say, well, we need your service too, but at the same time, bring something to the table that will create jobs. I say all of this as a precursor to what I would like to announce today. I am developing a $20 million apartment complex in Baltimore as a response to the uprising last year. It's going to be in the Art District, and we are creating a job program for those same disaffected folks that we saw uprising last year so that they can be a part of the labor force. And that's something that we're starting now. That's how you take policy and put some meat on the bones and put it on the table. We could have done that in New Orleans. Right now, I suggest that every one of your communities in all of those zip codes, you go and make this one demand, that everything that you considered blighted property, you take CDBG money, Community Development Block Grants, that every city gets. They put it out one time, and they never get the money back. They might fix some streets here, some lights there, a garbage can there. But tell them, say, let's use it to benefit people. You make sure that you have a job program committed with some of that money, and then you take that blighted property and you make it available for those in that job program. So once money that you put out to them, to train them, to give them a job, is tied to them obligated to buy a house of blighted property, and here money coming back to you, because that mortgage will come back to you as a city government, as a CDFI, the Community Development Financial Institution. So instead of that money going out one time, it comes back with a 2% mortgage loan. You don't have to put a big pork chop on it like the banks. They want that 6%, that 7%, right? 2%, 1%. And how do you get community policing happen? You make that available for the same first responders, police, firemen, and EMTs. So now you have folks who were knocking heads before, building properties, and living with each other, and taking blight off the table. But that's socialism, right? No, that's how you build a community. That's how you put money to good use. That's how you take people off the street. And that's why you could go to any corner and say, hey man, if I could take you off this corner, give you an opportunity to get a job, build a house, own it, and not have to look over your shoulder to see who's gunning for you, would you take it? Hell yeah. I'll see you at the movies on Friday. Took up all the time, too.
Yeah, let's do some questions.
We're good.
We ain't going nowhere.
So let's do a few questions.
Yeah, we're gonna run some mics too, so wait for a mic to reach you.
Oh, sorry.
This, I have to say, while we're getting the mic, this has been more than the panel. Wouldn't you say this has been a master class in
Who voting for Trump, man? Please, man, we gotta get out and vote, man. That man gotta get in that office, please, though.
I know, the Snoop has always been the one person who cuts to the chase.
Yeah.
Let's try to get a few questions. And please, if I can say please, what we would like are questions, not statements. I know people are fired up. I know we've been to economic school, the street corner, and church. Like questions, short questions, and just so we can get as many in, while panelists succinct answers if we could. Someone had their hand up. Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
First, thank you so much for being here and kind of really articulating the experiences that so many of us do have. Say hi. Hi. Okay. I'm struck a little bit to some degree that it seems that people are willing to engage with Black people and Black bodies when they're behind a screen, but then when they we could throw a rock and hit the projects, but if you look around, there aren't very many community people here. So I wonder how you feel about community engagement and the fact that people are so interested in you as a character, but seem to be disinterested in Black people and Black bodies otherwise to some degree. I know that sounds harsh, but
I think we should hold our political leaders, and I guess any other cultural leaders, hold their feet to the fire because they're claiming that they are interested. I'm forgiving of people, you know, man, I could come, but this is my one day, you know, I got 3 jobs. I'm pretty forgiving of people because they ultimately, I think, will hit that glass ceiling or come to that epiphany and go, I have to get more involved. I'm from Louisiana, so when David Duke ran for governor and he was about to get in as a Klan leader, we had 75% turnout in voting, right? So I think what happens is people have their moments of realization, so I'm forgiving them. Martin Luther King would have meetings like this and nobody came. It's a revisionist history that we have. Martin Luther King held a rally and Black folks were coming from all over the world, and King couldn't get folks to come and organize, you know? the professor can tell you, you meet somebody today of a certain age, everybody's a Black Panther. Right? Yeah, I was down. Right? Right? You're like, man, I don't remember you. So I'm forgiving of people. Yes. And I don't mind working for folks who may not even agree with me, may not even be motivated, may not even be aware. Because it's to lay the work. Whenever they come to that realization, that's in their time.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, tell the anyone? Yes, there's a few in the back.
Thank you guys so much. Kenneth Harris. I know you said no comments, but quick comment. I'm from Baltimore, West Baltimore. I live in Brooklyn. I really appreciate you guys. I love the show. I was watching. There were some of us that were watching the first season. Absolutely. I've heard you all on NPR and Terry Gross over the years, and I've heard your stories and read about your stories, and I just appreciate so much what you all are doing and the truth that you're speaking. So I want to help. I want to work to help do anything that you all are doing to build up my city. I want to be a part of that, so we can talk after. But in terms of the question I was going to ask, this can be directed to Snoop in particular, but to anybody on the stage. As you know, Baltimore is a beautiful place. There's a lot of beauty in the city, but there's also a lot of dysfunction and pathology. And it's a constant struggle to reject some of those notions and some of those ideas that we might have been born with. How difficult of a struggle is it on a daily basis for you to continue to stay on the right path and stay positive?
Me, because like I said before, Ed Burns and David Simon, but I want to give most of my credit to Michael K. Williams, my brother, for even saying anything, just looking at me crazy, and gave me an opportunity to get on the wire. For me, not going back in the streets, I just got to keep working and keep pushing and keep being on a positive note, even though the negativity is right there in your face, and the temptation is right there in your face. Nah, I came too far. I'm 30 plus, but I just want to make my life. It always got to start within me, because if I don't change myself, I cannot change you. I cannot help you change. I can't even give you advice. When I first started on the wire, I sit up here, you wouldn't understand a word coming out of my mouth, man. The wire, like I said, the wire took me out the streets, and that gave me an opportunity to help, a few other people. I ain't saying I could change the world, but just for me to give you my testimony, and just for you to listen and get some type of knowledge or anything. You could be going through anything. You ain't got to be in the streets. You could be having family problems or something. Just so you could get in depth with me and get some type of advice, just to stay on a positive note. Whoever around you that's negative, that energy, you soak that up. And it take away your positive energy. Get away from it. And I got away from it.
Wendell said something earlier on. Yeah, of course. Wendell said something earlier on in regards to holding your politicians to a higher standard, and all of us acknowledging that we're responsible. And I think that's one of the things, when you realize that you have a purpose and a responsibility, it's kind of difficult to go back, because there's so many other lives that you're affecting. I got a theater company, and not only that, but at the same time, you get a chance to express your thoughts in platforms like this, and you don't want to backpedal because, the magnifying glass is on you. So you want to make sure that you move in a direction in whatever area you're in order to, affect change. So, it's not that difficult to stay positive, because for the most part, there's so many people that need us, and so many lives that we've affected since the beginning of The Wire up until now.
before we wrap? Yes.
I don't have a mic.
That's all right, yeah.
Okay, so I can speak loudly.
Yes.
So thank you so much. I'm a huge fan. You guys were talking about the Black Panthers earlier, and something I feel like has been lost since that era of civil rights or social justice is like the internationalist, a facet of it, like solidarity with communities all across the world. And I feel like The Wire could apply to so many different places. Marginalized Muslim communities in Europe right now. The Palestine occupied territories. South Africa, even after apartheid, post-apartheid, there's still these institutionalized forms of poverty. So I just wanted to ask you guys, how do you think we could extend this message across the border, out to worldwide communities?
It is over in UK.
There was an article that came out the other day in regards to how to take down Putin if the United States wanted to do it, and they said the similarities of Marlo Stanfield and how he was in the Daily Beast. It was funny. And the similarities and how that Marlo holds and how he built his empire and how you can take it down. You can do the same thing with Putin because they consider him and Putin to be, they have the same characteristics. So I think one of the ways would be, you asked how to get it over there and how to apply change over there. You can study, the work, but for the most part, it's about, I would say, like finding those individuals in those communities that have a voice. Snoop said it earlier on. She said, listen, if you want to, when I go to the neighborhood, when I go to Baltimore, I got to find the dude that's the hustler, the dude that he has the clout. And on the streets, it's like that. In the political arena, it's like that. It's like you got to basically, for me, get close to the person also that can affect change and then build a unit around that person or those people, right? So I'm going to have to piggyback on the fact that I got a team here with Moving Mountains that, I travel a lot and it couldn't be done. It could not have been done without them, We have 150 to 200 kids in a neighborhood all around the 5 boroughs that come together every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and they could be anywhere on a Saturday, right? But there's something that happened that brings them all together and they think they're just coming to craft and develop their talents, but in truth, we're planting seeds in them, in regards to education, in regards to growth, in regards to changing your community, in regards to not just voting, but holding those in position accountable. So I think, you find that person, you find those people in your neighborhood that has the force, and then you move on it.
Also, those connections are there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to hear about it in the mainstream media. The assumption that you have to make is there is that internationalism.
That's right.
I know people who work in Palestine. I know people who work in disaffected Muslim communities, overseas and in America. There's a great liaison between Dearborn and what's happening in Europe and happening in the Middle East and all of these Muslim communities. There will be those who don't have your best interest at heart. So when you hear people say, oh, we don't know, they do know. It's the same thing when it comes to any community that's disinfected, we don't know where we find black directors. How can you find black talent? That's the only reason why you don't see more diverse property out there. And yet you have the international film festivals all over the world. FESPACO, which is in Burkina Faso in Africa, is older than Cannes. Right? Seriously. There's an entire African film market that goes back and forth. So those connections with people who are fighting the same battles are always there. You have to seek them out. Seek out those folks who are doing work in your community and ask, who are your liaisons in the other communities? The other thing is, the thing I like about The Wire is the more specific you are, the more universal your message becomes. Because I have walked just these avenues from the Upper East Side, where some little blue-head lady who volunteers at the Frick Museum said, oh, I love The Wire. to getting to 125th Street on Lenox, who a cat said, "Hey man, come here for a second. You know, I can't talk to you that long. I'm hustling." I love The Wire. What that says is it speaks to their humanity. And so you are not alone in your ability to be offended by the way people are being treated. Don't think there are not people like you in Damascus, in Istanbul, and in Belgium. They are. I remember September 11th, when I was here, my friends, the first thing we did was go over to Brooklyn, where I get my spices, right? And we said, we're gonna make sure that we escort our Muslim brothers and sisters to make sure nobody messes with them in the advent of this attack. So people of like minds will come together. They're already out there. Don't assume that they aren't. Seek them out. Absolutely.
A compliment to Jamie Hector, Snoop,
Thank you, bro.
Kima, as well as Mr. Wendell Pierce. We was at the Ella Thompson Fund in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Hector, we met at Home Depot with your daughter. You stopped, you took some shots with me. I don't know if you remember. Snoop, we was at St. John's playing ball. You were there acting wild. You doing you. Mr. Wendell Pierce, just think, Myrtle Avenue, tall high rise.
Wow.
Kima, hey, Park Slope. You guys are real. You stopped, took pictures. You're humble. You wasn't stuck up. You're just yourselves. No different than how you are on the screen. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
An amazing afternoon. I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot. Take this challenge, because everybody gave you a charge, not just information, not just entertainment. They gave you a charge about what we should be doing in our lives and in our community. So thanks to Jamie, to Snoop, to Wendell, to Sonja. Big round of applause.